Mike, is that you?
Gentlemen.
Good day, sir. Listen, if you're roaming around at the house, I found turnip seeds in the
Yeah, I
swamp.
have 3 of them. What do you want
Okay.
to do? Plant for more seeds, or you want to...
Plan for more seeds.
Okay.
Plan for more seeds. That was going to be the plan.
Do the same with the rest of the carrots.
We were just doing a little maintenance while you were logging in to Discord, I mean.
Yep.
So, I've been upgrading my bronze. I capped it out. So, I think you guys build the iron first, and then I'll go last. Since the
iron equipment or iron armor and weapons.
I guess it's up to you guys. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We need it all anyway. Whatever you feel most comfortable with doing.
Nando would say you.
Since I'm gonna go armor, 'cause I have I'm trying to take hits with a good shield.
I mean, another alternative would be we could, if you guys want to go armor and whatever. Is there an iron buckler?
Oh, yes. I don't know, actually.
I think there's like an iron tower shield.
Yeah, there's a
tower shield. There's an iron buckler and there's an iron tower shield.
Okay, I kind of just want like a buckler and maybe a sword.
Okay.
Yeah. But you guys do armor and whatever first, and then I'll go last.
Refilling our smelters. Nando, is he here?
I'm here.
What do you want to run first?
What do you mean run first?
Like, what do you want to fabricate first?
Oh,
Armor?
get that shield. The shield for sure, then we'll see where we're at.
Let's see, your cross got bigger, Nando. I'm happy that you did that.
Yeah, I went with the core wood.
Oh, wait, it got
I was
bigger.
like,
oh wow.
Like, what if the cross got bigger?
We were also experimenting with like stacking last night or whatever night we were in here
The
last.
build
and
mechanics.
We realized that Nando used these small bricks at the base, and it fucked the entire
Structure.
like
Stability up.
structure. Yeah, it messed everything up for him.
Like, it's not just by height, but the number of joints. Or, like, the number of connections, regardless of size.
Sounds elaborate.
So, potentially, we could go higher, but it would take a complete rebuild.
Yeah, at some point you have to draw a line.
Well, what I think Nando could do is he could come back to like the base and knock out a few critical things at a time. And if you're quick about it, I think everything will be okay, and you don't have to do a crazy deconstruct.
Not seeing a. Oh, there's the iron helm. So it's 20 apiece for each armor.
Yeah,
Plus
so
a weapon.
60,
So
60
80.
per 80, and then if you go for shield, whatever's extra, it might be like 100 per person,
Yeah.
just to baseline it.
Yeah. The shield is 10, and I think the weapon for a mace is 20, so 30. So 90 realistically.
And I wouldn't make necessarily the maces just yet. Like, make the weapon that you like, and the mace is just what we need to kill the boss.
That's fair.
But the mace to me was no fun. It kind of like swings slow.
I hate that shit.
It's not exciting at all.
It's not thrilling, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, no, it's not at all.
How are we on lumber? Do we need more?
I don't think
I think we
so.
got plenty.
Check the 225 chest inside.
You fucking memes.
That was where I left it.
Okay, that's 12 stacks.
Boy, I feel like this is a risky move.
What are you doing?
Oh shit.
Did you guys farm any gold?
No.
Let's see. 200, 400. You could probably buy 2 lights if you want to buy lights. But it's up to you guys about how you want to spend the gold. I think the weight belts have been worth it, but I think that's only worth it when you are dungeon delving or you're in the dark.
I had a bunch of food in my I don't want to call it upstate, halfway up house.
You're it's a split level duplex.
Yeah.
Can we get like a thing to sit in down here, Hondo?
Listen, we're working on this whole area.
You took my
but,
stump away.
It's
What is this?
not-
A gate to a balcony? Jesus.
It's a wraparound balcony.
A wraparound balcony? Jesus. And you got a sitting log up here? Comfort one, Nando. Come
Yeah.
on.
It's just an experiment. I might expand on it. By the way, be food buffs when you're up there, because if you fall, you will die.
I feel like you've run that by experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like, does that help at all? Some shit like that? Oh, maybe it's interesting. this whole building mechanics are like, I don't understand.
Physics. It's all physics.
Well, so like, you know how we were talking about how
Small blocks at the bottom.
small blocks at the bottom on this far wall where there's like a set of small blocks and a big block helping support it.
Enter. Did you guys put that back up?
No, it's knocked down. That's what I'm trying to work on. Is I want to
Okay.
I want like a root cellar or something, whatever you want to call it, over here.
Process.
But opening up a door on this side of it, Nando made one brick at the penthouse level, like fall apart. Like it's easy fix. I just have to put the hole back in at the bottom. But then how do we make a door? Is the question.
That's the trick. You don't. I feel like you need Property Brothers to solve
You're
your
gonna have to
problem for you.
you're gonna have to inconvenience us to walk outside. No, we're not doing
Yeah,
that here.
of course.
It's a deal breaker for you.
I don't quite know what the smart thing is here.
Out of stone. Or is it in a cart?
No, we were out of stone.
Okay.
I have some on me, but I'm trying to like do stuff with it.
You're right.
I mean-
I go to the what do we call it? Upstate portal, and it puts you right in the dark forest, and there's stone everywhere. You can just bring it back. That's the quickest way, currently.
Yeah, like massive boulders that look like copper, but it's just rocks. You just gotta have at it.
I guess we could run around. Just don't like any of these options here. Well, did that work?
Ted, what's your run talent at?
Well, you can enable friendly fire.
We're not doing that.
It's accidental.
Nothing would get done.
My run is at 34.
Holy shit, I've died too many times. I have a lot of leveling to do again.
Okay, I'll fix that.
Pretty decent haul.
What the fuck? Why don't these work? Are they just too... Damn, dude, I think I gotta expand this like one more unit over. Oh my god, getting this to snap is gonna be so hard.
Try pressing E to try different snapping directions, and it might work. That's what I figured out.
Oh wow, okay.
Because sometimes it'll snap, but you just can't get the angle right, you know.
Wow, Nando. That absolutely did it.
That changes the game, huh?
Changes the game, baby.
Think I can land in the water if I jump from the roof? Oh yeah, I got this.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I think so.
Oh! Here's some rocks.
Well, hello.
Oh,
Hello,
what's
Viking.
going on?
I've heard from you all day. Maybe not all day, but it's been a minute.
My phone's doing this weird thing where it doesn't notify me when chat is popping. I just watched the Tucker Carlson Vladimir Putin interview.
How'd that go?
It's almost eerie. 'Cause it just seems like Putin knows something that we don't know.
He probably knows a lot of things we don't know.
Yeah.
Cody's like, what I got from the interview is he's definitely Russian. Yes, Cody. Yes. 100%.
Definitely Russian.
He's the interview starts off kind of weird. Like Tucker asks, you know, like basically, did you go to war with Ukraine? And Putin goes into a 30-minute history of Russia. And like Tucker is like, why is he doing this? And he just tries like interrupt him a couple times. And Putin's like, I thought you wanted a serious conversation, not a TV show. I'm giving you a serious conversation. Tucker's like, oh, okay. But it's interesting. You can definitely tell there's like some propaganda in there. But it's definitely worth watching if you're bored.
If you're bored is not a good encouragement.
Okay, so what if I'm not bored?
A lot of people aren't into politics, so if you're not into politics, then this isn't your cup of tea. What mission are we on tonight?
Looking and building.
Melting, building, prepping.
Oh, that food hall was better than I thought it would be.
Oh, this thing?
No, my
Oh,
just
you mean-
my little excursion. I got a bunch of stacks of meat.
I like this conversation because I can't tell if you're talking about actually in the game or if you're like, I went to a food hall and had whatever I want.
And I went to the local Aldi.
Great deals there at that Aldi.
Cody would rather Dota 2 than this rare moment that we Viking together, Ted. Because this is not gonna happen again.
Dota 2 tournaments.
This is not gonna happen again. Once we beat this game, it's gonna be like Terraria, and that's what happened.
Comfort 9, what?
The following is an interview with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, shot February 6, 2024 at about 7 p.m. in the building behind us, which is the Kremlin. The interview, as you will see if you watch it, is primarily about the war in progress, the war in Ukraine, how it started, what's happening, and most pressingly, how it might end. One note before you watch. At the beginning of the interview, we asked the most obvious question, which is, why did you do this? Did you feel a threat, an imminent physical threat? And that's your justification. And the answer we got shocked us. Putin went on for a very long time, probably half an hour, about the history of Russia going back to the 8th century. And Honestly, we thought this was a filibustering technique and found it annoying and interrupted him several times. And he responded he was annoyed by the interruption. But we concluded in the end, for what it's worth, that it was not a filibustering technique. There was no time limit on the interview. We ended it after more than 2 hours. Instead, what you're about to see seemed to us sincere, whether you agree with it or not. Vladimir Putin believes that Russia has a historic claim to parts of western Ukraine. So our opinion would be to view it in that light as a sincere expression of what he thinks. And with that, here it is. Mr. President, thank you.
These are like fucking
February
headlamps. You guys
22nd,
want one?
2022, you addressed
No,
your
I like
country
the
in a
belt.
nationwide address when the
No, you can have
conflict
both.
in Ukraine started.
Oh, can you have both? I can
And
only
you
have one.
said that
Oh,
you
no,
were
replaces the
acting
helm.
because you had come
So
to
you
the
can have a
conclusion
headlight,
that
but
the
not a
United
helm.
States, through NATO, might initiate a, quote, surprise attack on our country. And to American ears, that sounds paranoid. Tell us why you believe the United States might strike Russia out of the blue. How did you conclude that?
It's not that America, the United States, was going to launch a surprise strike on Russia. I didn't say that. Are we having a talk show or a serious conversation?
Here's the quote. Thank you. It's a formidable series.
Because your basic education is in history as far as I understand.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, I will take only 30 seconds or 1 minute to give you a short reference to history for giving you a little historical background.
Please.
Let's look where our relationship with Ukraine started from. Where did Ukraine come from? The Russian state started gathering itself as a centralized statehood, and it is considered to be the year of the establishment of the Russian state in 862, when the townspeople of Novgorod invited a Varangian prince, Rurik, from Scandinavia to reign. In 1862, Russia celebrated the 1000th anniversary of its statehood. And in Novgorod there is a memorial dedicated to the 1000th anniversary of the country. In 882, Rurik's successor, Prince Oleg, who was actually playing the role of regent at Rurik's younger son, because Rurik had died by that time, came to Kiev. He ousted 2 brothers who apparently had once been members of Rurik's squad. So Russia began to develop with 2 centers of power, Kiev and Novgorod. The next very significant date in the history of Russia was 988. This was the baptism of Russia, when Prince Vladimir, the great-grandson of Rurik, baptized Russia and adopted Orthodoxy, or Eastern Christianity. From this time, the centralized Russian state began to strengthen. Why? Because of the single territory, integrated economic ties,
I need
one and the
it's
same
5
language, and,
bronze
after the baptism
per,
of
like,
Russia, the same faith and rule of the
chandelier
prince. The
And I wanna
centralized
continue
Russian
the
state
chandelier
How
began
much
all
to
around.
chandeliers do
change.
you need?
a lot.
Back in the
alright?
Middle ages, Prince Yaroslav the Wise introduced the order of succession to a throne. But after he passed away, it became complicated for various reasons. The throne was passed not directly from father to eldest son, but from the prince, who had passed away, to his brother, then to his sons in different lines. All this led to the fragmentation and the end of Rus as a single state. There was nothing special about it. The same was happening then in Europe.
раздробленное русское государство стало легкой добычей.
But the fragmented Russian state became an easy prey to the empire created earlier by Genghis Khan.
Хан Батый пришли на Русь,
His successors, namely Batu Khan, came to Rus.
So 5 minutes into this interview, Cody,
Yeah.
it's fucking dumb, bro. So 1,000 years ago, there was a prince, so now we can bomb women and children in Kiev today. Get the fuck
Dude,
out
you got 30 more minutes
of
Russian
that.
history.
Yeah, okay, but
And then it starts. So I would fast forward it to like 25 minutes.
no,
if you don't wanna hear
I'm not
any
a
of that.
bitch.
He ain't no-
We need a
Plundered
bigger
and
gate,
ruined
fellas.
nearly all the
This
cities.
card action is not working for me.
This-
Yeah, I realize that, but I put that there because when the trolls show up, they smash through anything else.
That's fair. I'll give you that.
But I do not like taking the cart through the gate like one bit. It's terrible. So if you have an alternative, I am all ears for that one. 'Cause
Two
it's
gates.
pissed me off more times than... Well, the gate has like a bar in there, I think. We could test it. That's something I was too impatient to do.
The southern part, including Kiev, by the way, and some other cities, simply lost
Side by side,
independence,
just like
while
that
northern
whole thing
cities
is just
preserved some
stripe,
of
or
their
if it's like an
sovereignty.
actual
часть
point.
суверенитета сохранить.
They had to pay tribute to the horde, but they managed to preserve some part of their sovereignty.
Складывается единое российское государство.
And then a unified Russian state began to take shape with its center in Moscow.
Оно начало
The southern part of Russian lands, including Kiev,
тому центру, который складывается.
began to gradually gravitate towards another magnet, the center that was emerging in Europe.
Его даже называли Литовская Русь.
This was the Grand Duchy of Lithuania.
Представляли значительную
It was even called the Lithuanian Russian Duchy, because Russians were a significant part of this population.
главными
They spoke the old Russian language and were Orthodox.
объединения Великое княжество Литовское.
But then there
Why
was
don't
a
you come build me a cart out
unification,
here
the
by the
union of the Grand Duchy of
lumber
Lithuania
farm?
and the Kingdom of Poland.
Уже в духовной
Build
силе.
A
you
few years
cart.
later, another
That's what I
union
just
was
said.
signed,
Why didn't you bring one of the
but this
existing?
time
Because I
already
couldn't
in
get
the
out
religious
of the
field.
gate. We just had this discussion.
Some of the Orthodox priests became subordinate to the Pope. Thus, these lands became part of the Polish-Lithuanian state.
Полячья
Guy.
эта часть.
Fucking guy.
I'm very
Язык внедряли туда.
During decades, the Poles were engaged in Polonization of this part of the population.
Они живут в Украине.
They introduced their language there,
But I
trying
do wanna
to
watch you
infringe the
try and make
idea
this work.
that this
I have
population
succeeded
was
in
not
getting
exactly
parts stuck.
Russians,
In the gate.
that because they lived on the fringe,
Yeah, get them both
they
stuck.
were Ukrainians.
Занимается
Originally, the word Ukrainian meant that a person was living on the outskirts of the state, along the fringes, or
I've
was
done this
engaged in a
a
border
bunch.
patrol service. It didn't mean any
Let's
particular
try-
ethnic group.
поляки всячески
So the Poles were trying to,
относились
in every possible way, to
Oh, I
colonize
see
this
what's
part of the Russian lands and actually treated it rather harshly, not to say cruelly. All that led to the fact that this part of the Russian lands began to struggle for their rights.
писали письма.
They wrote letters to Warsaw demanding that their rights be observed and people be commissioned here, including to Kiev.
I beg your pardon, can you tell us what period, I'm losing track of where in history we are?
Это было
The Polish
это
oppression
было
of
в 13
Ukraine.
Это было
It was in the 13th century.
Ну вот, в 13 веке. Это было в 13 веке. Значит, и
Now I will tell you what happened later
дальше я назову даты, чтобы не было путаницы.
and give the dates so that there is no confusion.
В 1600,
And in 1654, even a bit earlier,
чуть раньше даже, люди, которые контролировали
the
власть,
people who were in control of the authorities over that part of the Russian lands
присылали к ним направление.
addressed Warsaw, I repeat, demanding that they send them to rulers of Russian origin and Orthodox faith. When Warsaw did not answer them, and in
Oh, is
fact
this?
rejected their demands, they turned to Moscow, so that Moscow took them away.
Чтобы вы не думали, что я что-то придумал.
So that you don't think that I'm inventing things,
Fuck.
I'll give you these documents.
Well,
Thank you,
it doesn't sound like you're inventing it. I'm
That was
not
harder than it should have
sure
been.
why it's relevant to what happened 2 years
Не-не-не,
ago.
но все-таки
But still,
документы из архива.
these are documents from the archives,
We could
copies.
definitely try implementing a better game.
Bogdana
Here are the letters from Bogdan
Now I gotta get
Khmelnytsky,
on that.
контролировал власть в этой
the man who then controlled the power in this part of the Russian lands
в Варшаву.
that is now called Ukraine. He wrote to Warsaw demanding that their rights be upheld,
С просьбой взять их
and after being refused, he began to write letters to Moscow, asking to take them under the strong hand of the Moscow Tsar. There are copies of these documents. I will leave them for your good memory. There is a translation into Russian. You can translate it into English later.
потому что
Russia would not agree to admit them straight away, assuming that the war with Poland would start. Nevertheless, in 1654, the Pan-Russian Assembly of top clergy and landowners, headed by the Tsar,
часть древнерусских земель вошла
which was the representative body of the power of the old Russian state, decided to include a part of the old Russian lands into Moscow Kingdom. As expected, the war with Poland began. It lasted 13 years, and then in 1654,
по-моему,
a truce was concluded.
мир с Польшей. Вечный мир, как по-другому.
And 32 years later, I think, a peace treaty with Poland, which they called Eternal Peace, was signed.
Отошла к России.
And these lands, the whole left bank of Dnieper, including Kiev, went to Russia.
Затем, во времена
And the whole right bank of Dnieper remained in Poland.
вернула все исторические земли.
Under the rule of Catherine the Great, Russia reclaimed all of its historical lands, including in the south and west.
Да, а вот
This all lasted until the revolution.
воспользовавшись
Before World War I,
организацией,
Austrian General Staff relied on the ideas of Ukrainianization and started actively promoting the ideas of Ukraine and the Ukrainianization.
в преддверии мировой войны, конечно, было стремление ослабить потенциал.
Their motive was obvious. Just before World War I, they wanted to weaken the potential enemy and secure themselves favorable conditions in the border area. So the idea which had emerged in Poland that people residing in that territory were allegedly not really Russians, but rather belonged to a special ethnic group, Ukrainians, started being propagated by the Austrian General Staff. As far back as the 19th century, theorists calling for Ukrainian independence appeared.
Украинской независимости,
All those, however, claimed that Ukraine should have a very good relationship with Russia.
Вот.
They insisted on that.
После революции 1917 года
After the 1917 revolution,
старались восстановить государство. Развернулась
the
гражданская
Bolsheviks sought to restore the statehood, and the civil war began, including the hostilities with Poland.
в 1922 году, по которым западная
In
часть
1921, peace with Poland was proclaimed, and under that treaty, the right bank of Dnieper River once again was given back to Poland.
в 1939
In 1939, after Poland cooperated with Hitler,
начала с Гитлером, а Польша сотрудничала.
it did collaborate with Hitler, you know? Hitler offered Poland peace and a
So smelting is
treaty of
done.
friendship
We have enough for tools and armor.
an alliance demanding in return that Poland give back to Germany the so-called Danzig corridor, which connected the bulk of Germany with East Prussia and Königsberg.
Основную часть Германии с Кёнигсбергом и с Восточной Пруссией.
After World
Yeah, we
War I,
have
this territory was
four
transferred to
stacks
Poland,
of
and instead of Danzig,
three
a
stacks,
city of Dansk
120.
emerged.
И вместо Данцига появился.
Hitler asked them to give it amicably, but they refused.
Of course.
Still, they collaborated with Hitler
I
and
would say if you wanted
engaged
to,
together
Шли с Гитлером. И вместе
Tools.
занялись
in the
We do
partitioning
run
of
Ted, now would be a good
Czechoslovakia.
time.
But may I ask you, you're making the case that Ukraine, certainly parts of Ukraine, Eastern Ukraine, is
Nando, where are
in
you?
fact Russia has been for.
Slightly northeast.
You want to do armor and weapons?
Yeah.
We have everything is smelted.
Hundreds of years. Why wouldn't you just take it when you became president 24 years ago? You have nuclear weapons, they don't. If it's actually your land, Why did you wait so long?
Да, сейчас.
I'll tell you.
Я сейчас
I'm coming to that. This briefing is coming to an end. It might be boring, but it
It's not
explains
boring.
many
You
things.
just don't know how it's relevant.
Ну, отлично, тогда мне очень
Good.
приятно.
Good.
Спасибо большое.
I'm so gratified that you appreciate that.
После,
Thank you.
перед Вторым мировым
So, before World War II, Poland collaborated with Hitler, and although it did not yield to Hitler's demands, it still participated in the partitioning of Czechoslovakia together with Hitler, as the Poles had not given the Danzig corridor to Germany and went too far, pushing Hitler to start World War II by attacking them. Why was it Poland against whom the war started on 1st September 1939? Poland turned out to be uncompromising, and Hitler had nothing to do but start implementing his plans with Poland.
И Советский Союз.
By the way, the USSR, I have read some archive documents,
No,
behaved
but the
very
Berkshires
honestly.
are up if you want me to farm them for you now.
It asked Poland's permission to
Alright, on
transit
it.
its troops through the Polish territory to help Czechoslovakia.
Что если даже Советский
But
Союз-
the then Polish foreign minister said that if the Soviet planes flew over Poland, they would be downed over the territory of Poland.
Война началась.
But that doesn't matter.
Уже сама
What matters is
30,
that the
right?
war began,
30, yeah.
and Poland
I'll
fell
take
prey to the
more, but
policies
30's all I-
Yeah,
it
I'm
had pursued
pulling,
against
the first
Czechoslovakia,
section right now. Hold on.
as under the well-known Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact.
территории отошла.
Part of the territory, including western Ukraine, was to be given to Russia. Thus, Russia, which was then named the USSR, regained its historical lands.
Победа
After the victory in the Great Patriotic War, as we call World War II,
эти территории окончательно были
all those territories were ultimately enshrined as belonging to Russia,
Польша.
to the USSR.
Порядке компенсации, так надо полагать.
As for
Получила
Poland,
Запад-
it received, apparently in compensation, the lands which had originally been German.
это, это западную, восточную часть.
The eastern parts of Germany, these are now western lands of Poland.
Ну, естественно, и опять вернули
Of course, Poland regained access to the Baltic Sea and Danzig,
Данцик, который опять стал
which was once again given its Polish name.
Вот таким образом сложилось.
So this was how this situation developed.
Формирование Советского Союза, это уже 1900
In 1922, when the USSR was being established,
большевики начали формировать
the
СССР.
Bolsheviks started building the USSR and established the Soviet Ukraine, which had never existed before.
Right.
Который до сих пор вообще не существовал. При этом Сталин
Stalin insisted that those republics be included in the USSR as
входили в качестве автономных
autonomous entities.
Основатель советского государства Ленин стоял.
For some inexplicable reason, Lenin, the founder of the Soviet state, insisted that they be entitled to withdraw from the USSR.
Наделил образующийся
And again,
Yeah,
for
it was
some
new
unknown
Chester.
reasons, he transferred to that newly established Soviet Republic of Ukraine some of the
Saw the
lands
beat.
together with people living.
New chest, bro. Over here.
Oh.
Clearing all that out so we can have space in here. Fuck, it pick up the iron. No room in inventory.
There, even though those lands had never been called Ukraine, and yet they were made part of that Soviet Republic of Ukraine. Those lands included the Black Sea region, which was received under Catherine the Great, and which had no historical connection with Ukraine whatsoever. Even if we go as far back as 1654, when these lands returned to Russian Empire, that territory was the size of 3 to
Some of the
4
card-
regions of modern
Nah,
Ukraine,
I don't
with
have
no
too much
Black
space.
Sea region. That was completely out of the question.
In 1654.
Yeah, most definitely.
Exactly.
I'm just, you obviously have encyclopedic knowledge of this region, but why didn't you make this case for the first 22 years as president that Ukraine wasn't a real country?
Да, итак, значит, Украина получила
The Soviet Union was given a great deal of territory that had never belonged to it, including the Black Sea region.
Когда Россия получила в результате
At some point, when Russia received them as an outcome of the Russo-Turkish Wars, they were called New Russia or Novorossiya. But that does not matter. What matters is that Lenin, the founder of the Soviet state, established Ukraine that way. For decades, the Ukrainian Soviet Republic developed as part of the USSR.
по непонятным причинам занимались
And for unknown reasons again, the Bolsheviks were engaged in Ukrainianization. It was not merely because the Soviet leadership was composed to a great extent of those originating from Ukraine. Rather, it was explained by the general policy of indigenization pursued by the Soviet Union. Same things were done in other Soviet republics. This involved promoting national languages and national cultures, which is not a bad in principle. That is how the Soviet Ukraine was created. After the World War II, Ukraine received, in addition to the lands that had belonged to Poland before the war, part of the lands that had previously belonged to Hungary and Romania. So Romania and Hungary had some of their lands taken away and given to the Soviet Ukraine, and they still remain part of Ukraine. So in this sense, we have every reason to affirm that Ukraine is an artificial state that was shaped at Stalin's will.
Do you believe Hungary has a right to take its land back from Ukraine, and that other nations have a right to go back to their 1654 borders?
Ну, я не знаю, как границы.
I'm not sure whether they should go back to the 1654 borders.
Все считают, что
But given Stalin's time, so-called Stalin's regime, which as many claim saw numerous violations of human rights and violations of the rights of other states,
государств, то в этом смысле, конечно, вполне можно, ну, если не говорить о том, что они имеют право.
one may say that they could claim back those lands of theirs while having no right to do that. It is at least understandable.
Have you told Viktor Orban that he can have part of Ukraine?
Никогда не говорил.
Never. I have never told him, not a single time.
У нас с ним даже на этот счет не было разговора. Но мы достоверно
We have not even had any conversation on that, but I actually know for sure that Hungarians who live there
они, конечно, хотят вернуться на свою территорию.
wanted to get back to their historical land.
Не стоит, отвлекусь.
Moreover, I would like to share a very interesting story with you.
Где-то
I digress, it's a personal one. Somewhere in the early 80s, I went on a road trip in a car from then Leningrad across the Soviet Union through Kiev. Made a stop in Kiev and then went to western Ukraine. I went to the town of Beregovoye, and all the names of towns and villages there were in Russian and in a language I did not understand, in Hungarian, in Russian and in Hungarian. Not in Ukrainian, in Russian
feel like a cross
and in
between
Hungarian. I was driving through some kind of village and there were men sitting next to the houses and they were wearing black three-piece suits and black cylinder hats. I asked, are they some kind of entertainers? I was told, no, they were not entertainers, they're Hungarians. I said, what are they doing here? What do you mean? This is their land, they live here. This was during the Soviet time in the 1980s. They preserved the Hungarian language, Hungarian names, and all their national costumes. They are Hungarians and they feel themselves to be Hungarian. And of course, when now there is an infringement.
Well, that is, and there's a lot of that, though. I think many nations are upset about Transylvania as well. As
You got that much
obviously know.
wood?
But many nations feel
Yeah.
frustrated by the redrawn borders of the wars of the 20th century, and wars going back 1,000 years, the ones that you mentioned. But the fact is that you didn't make this case in public until 2 years ago, February. And in the case that you made, which I read today, you explain at great length that you felt a physical threat from the West in NATO, including potentially a nuclear threat, and that's what got you to move. Is that a fair characterization of what you said?
Я понимаю, что мои длинные диалоги, они...
I understand that my long speeches probably fall outside of the genre of the interview.
Oh, you moved everything.
That is why I asked you at the beginning. Are we going to have a serious talk or a show?
Не обижайтесь.
You said a serious talk,
Ну, так вот.
so bear with me, please.
К тому моменту, когда
We're coming to the point where the Soviet Ukraine was established. Then, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and everything that Russia had generously bestowed on Ukraine was dragged away by the latter.
я скажу сейчас очень важный момент.
I'm coming to a very important point of today's agenda.
Этот развал Советского Союза.
Thank you.
After all, the collapse of the Soviet Union was effectively initiated by the Russian leadership.
Не знаю, чем тогда руководствовался Россия. Но
I do not understand what the Russian leadership was guided by at the time, but I suspect there were several reasons to think
Yo, hell, I
everything
got
would be
5
fine.
bodies on me.
первое. Ну, во-первых, я
Fine.
думаю, что
Lock it off.
6,
руководство
7.
исходило из того, что фундаментально
First, I think that then Russian leadership believed that the fundamentals of the relationship between Russia and Ukraine were,
Oh,
in
shit,
fact, a
I'm dead.
common language.
I'm dead.
More than 90% of
I'm
the
dead.
population there spoke Russian.
I'm dead.
Family ties. Every third person there had some kind of family or friendship ties. Common culture, common history. Finally, common faith, coexistence with a single state for centuries, and deeply interconnected economies.
экономику взаимосвязаны.
All of these were so fundamental.
Неизбежно.
All these elements together make our good relationships inevitable.
Я хочу, чтобы вы, как американские граждане, чтобы
The second point is a very important one.
прежнее российское руководство
I want you, as an American citizen, and your viewers to hear about this as well.
больше никаких разделителей.
The former Russian leadership assumed that the Soviet Union had ceased to exist, and therefore there were no longer any ideological dividing lines.
Инициативно пошла даже на развал Советского Союза.
Russia even agreed voluntarily and proactively to the collapse of the Soviet Union,
Называемым
and believed that this would be understood by the so-called civilized West
союзничеством,
as an invitation for cooperation and
вот чего
association.
ожидала Россия.
That is what Russia was expecting, both from the United States and the so-called collective West as a whole.
В том числе и в Германии. Эгон Барр.
There were smart people, including in Germany, Egon Bahr, a major politician of the Social Democratic Party, who insisted in his personal conversations with the Soviet leadership on the brink of the collapse of the Soviet Union that a new security system should be established in Europe.
Помочь объединиться Германии. Но
Help should be given to unify Germany,
хотите Соединенные
but a new system should be also established to include the United States, Canada, Russia, and other Central European countries.
Yes.
But NATO needs not to expand.
Все будет то же
That's
самое,
what he
как
said.
в условиях холодной войны. Только
If
ближе
NATO
к
expands, everything would be just the same as during the Cold War,
Его никто не
only closer to Russia's borders. That's all.
слушает. Больше того, он рассердился как-то.
He was a wise old man, but no one listened to
Если,
him.
говорит, вы меня
In fact, he got angry once.
рассердился на советское руководство.
If, he said, you don't listen to me, I'm never setting my foot in Moscow once again.
Но, тем не менее,
Everything happened just as he had said.
Well, of course, it did come true, and you've mentioned this many times. I think it's a fair point, and many in America thought that relations between Russia and the United States would be fine with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. That the opposite happened, but you've never explained why you think that happened, except to say that the West fears a strong Russia, but we have a strong China. The West does not seem very afraid of. What about Russia, do you think, convinced policymakers they had to take it down?
Запад
Okay.
боится сильного Китая больше, чем сильной России.
The West is afraid of strong China more than it fears a strong Russia, because Russia has 150 million people and China has 1.5 billion population, and its economy is growing by leaps and bounds, or 5% a year. It used to be even more. But that's enough for China. As Bismarck once put it, potentials are the most important. China's potential is enormous. It is the biggest economy in the world today in terms of purchasing power parity and the size of the economy. It has already overtaken the United States quite a long time ago, and it is growing at a rapid clip. Let's not talk about who is afraid of whom. Let's not reason in such terms. And let's get into the fact that after 1991, when Russia expected that it would be welcomed into the brotherly family of civilized nations, nothing like this happened. The trick is, I don't mean you personally when I say you. Of course, I'm talking about the United States. The promise was that NATO would not expand eastward, but it happened 5 times. There were 5 waves of expansion. We tolerated all that. We were trying to persuade them. We were saying, please don't. We are as bourgeois now as you are. We are a market economy and there's no communist party power. Let's negotiate. Moreover, I have also said this publicly before.
Был момент, когда
There was a moment when a certain rift started growing between us. Before that, Yeltsin came to the United States. Remember, he spoke in Congress and said the good words. God bless America. Everything he said were signals. Let us in. Remember the developments in Yugoslavia before the Yeltsin was lavished with praise? As soon as the developments in Yugoslavia started, he raised his voice in support of Serbs, and we couldn't but raise our voices for Serbs in their defense. I understand that there were complex processes underway there. I do. But Russia could not help raising its voice in support of Serbs, because Serbs are also a special and close to us nation, with Orthodox culture and so on. It's a nation that has suffered so much for generations. Well, regardless, what is important is that Yeltsin expressed his support. What did the United States do? In violation of international law and the UN Charter, it started bombing Belgrade. It was the United States that let the genie out of the bottle. Moreover, when Russia protested and expressed its resentment, what was said? The UN Charter and international law have become obsolete. Now everyone invokes international law, but at that time they started saying that everything was outdated. Everything had to be changed. Indeed, some things need to be changed, as the balance of power has changed. It's true, but not in this manner. Yeltsin was immediately dragged through the mud, accused of alcoholism, of understanding nothing, of knowing nothing.
Ну хорошо.
He understood everything, I assure you. Well,
Думаю, ладно, все.
I became president in 2000. I thought, okay, the Yugoslav issue is over, but we should try to restore relations.
Которую Россия.
Let's reopen the door that Russia had tried to go through.
Больше того,
And moreover, I said it publicly, I can reiterate.
с уходящим от власти.
At a meeting here in the Kremlin with the outgoing President Bill Clinton, right here in the next room, I said to him, I asked him,
Если бы Россия поставила вопрос о вступлении в НАТО,
Bill, do you think if Russia asked to join NATO, do you think it would happen?
он сказал, ты знаешь, это интересно.
Suddenly he said, you know, it's interesting. I think so.
Вы же
But in the evening, when we met for dinner, he said, you know, I've talked to my team. No, it's not possible now.
Конечно, спросить нужно. Но я думаю, наша.
You can ask him. I think he will watch our interview. He'll confirm it.
Spicier than I thought.
I wouldn't have said anything like that if it hadn't happened. Okay.
Were you
well, It's
sincere?
impossible now.
Would you have joined NATO?
Послушайте,
Look, I asked the question, is it possible or not? And the answer I got was no. If I was insincere in my desire to find out what the leadership position was,
But if he had said yes, would you have joined NATO?
если бы он
if he had said yes, the process of rapprochement would have commenced, and eventually it might have happened, if we had seen some sincere wish on the other side of our partners. But it didn't happen. Well, no means no. Okay, fine.
Why do you think that is? Just to get to motive. I know you're clearly bitter about it. I understand. But why do you think the West rebuffed you then? Why the hostility? Why did the end of the Cold War not fix the relationship? What motivates this from your point of view?
Вы сказали, что
You said I was bitter about the answer. No, it's not bitterness. It's just a statement of fact. We're not bride and groom, bitterness, resentment. It's not about those kind of matters in such circumstances. We just realized we weren't welcome there, that's all. Okay, fine. But let's build relations in another manner. Let's look for common ground elsewhere. Why we received such a negative response, you should ask your leaders. I can only guess why. too big a country with its own opinion and so on. And the United States, I've seen how issues are being resolved in NATO.
Ну, я же видел, как решают.
I will give you another example now concerning
Right, because I
Ukraine.
had 10 marked on my map.
Касающиеся
The US leadership exerts pressure, and all NATO members obediently
That
vote,
was me.
даже если им
even if they do not like
What
something.
we should do is build a portal to the eastern
Now,
coast.
I'll tell you what
Fuck that.
happened in
We do
this
that.
regard with Ukraine in 2008, although it's being discussed.
Well, there's nothing
I'm not
there.
going to open a secret to you,
No, I
saying
mean on the
anything
island,
new.
the east side of the island.
Nevertheless,
Am I not
after
on
that
the
we
east
tried
side
to
of
build
that?
relations in different ways.
Oh yeah, you are. Yeah, I'm not.
For example, the events in the Middle East, in
You're
Iraq.
out west.
мы
We
очень
were building relations with the United States in a very soft, prudent, cautious manner. I repeatedly raised the issue that the United States should not support separatism or terrorism in the North Caucasus,
первым кафе, но все равно продолжили
but they continue to do it anyway.
политические
And political support, information support, financial support, even military support came from the United States and its satellites for terrorist groups in the Caucasus. I once raised this issue with my colleague, also the President of the United States. He says, "It's impossible. Do you have proof?" I said, "Yes." I was prepared for this conversation, and I gave him that proof. He looked at it, and you know what he said? "I apologize, but that's what happened." I'll quote. He says, "Well, I'm gonna kick their ass." We waited and waited for some response. There was no reply. I said to the FSB director, "Write to the CIA, what is the result of the conversation with President?" He wrote once, twice, and then we got a reply. We have the answer in the archive. The CIA replied, "We have been working with the opposition in Russia. We believe that this is the right thing to do, and we will keep on doing it." Just ridiculous. Well, okay. We realized that it was out of the question.
Forces in opposition to you. So you're saying the CIA is trying to overthrow your government.
Ну, конечно, имелось в виду в данном случае.
Of course, they meant in that particular case the separatists, the terrorists who fought with us in the Caucasus. That's who they called the opposition.
Это вот второй момент.
This is the second
Очень
point.
важный.
The third moment is a very important one. Is the moment when the US missile defense system was created.
Начало.
The beginning.
Мы долго уговаривали.
We persuaded for a long time not to do it in the United States.
Меня пригласили
Moreover,
отец Буша.
After was invited by Bush Jr.'s father, Bush Sr., to visit his place on the ocean,
Там состоялась очень серьезная беседа,
I had a very serious conversation with President Bush and his team.
чтобы
I proposed that the United States, Russia, and Europe jointly create a missile defense system that, we believe,
как мы считаем,
if created unilaterally, threatens our security, despite the fact that the United States officially said that it was being created against missile threats from Iran. That was the justification for the deployment of the missile defense system. I suggested working together, Russia, the United States, and Europe. They said it was very interesting. They asked me, "Are you serious?" I said, "Absolutely."
Let me ask, what year was this?
ну, я не помню, вот
I don't remember.
в интернете, когда я был.
It is easy to find out on the internet when I was in the USA at the invitation of Bush Sr. It is even easier to learn from someone I'm going to tell you about.
Они сказали, это очень интересно.
I was told it was very interesting. I said, just imagine if we could tackle such a global strategic security challenge together. The world will change. We'll probably have disputes, probably economic and even political ones, but we could drastically change
I
the
also feel like
situation
another
in the
important
world.
thing that we,
He says yes.
at least I haven't been doing, is trying to level swimming.
Oh
I
god.
don't think that's worth it though.
I mean, maybe not to like cap it or anything, but if we ever have an emergency where the shore is in sight,
It could be the difference.
it could be the difference, you know?
I'm not so sure.
37 minutes into this interview. Bro, this whole thing is a fucking psyop just to bore the fuck out of you.
Why are you surprised?
That's all it is.
Like, Putin is a masterful troll. It's always been.
That's all he's doing. He's just fucking yapping, fucking something that the not Generation C, the Generation Alpha taught me, bro. He's fluent in Japanese. He's just fucking just yapping, just yapping. And then when you tell
That's a
him,
good one.
when you tell him, bro, stop yapping, he's like, I thought you want serious conversation. Okay. Here comes the yapping, bro.
He's like, it sounds like he's got the CEO talk down.
And based on what he's saying, he's forming justification to invade Poland too.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, Peter Zeihan has a book called "The End of the World Is Only the Beginning" or something like that. And his argument is basically for Russia to feel safe, they would have to control a population area twice their size. So that's pretty much every single border country that exists with Russia in Eastern Europe. That's never going to happen. But don't tell them that.
just will not stop yapping.
And asks, "Are you serious?" I said, "Of course. We need to think about it," I'm told.
Вот в этот кабинет.
I said, "Go ahead, please." Then Secretary of Defense Gates, former Director of CIA, and Secretary of State Rice came in here, in this cabinet, right here at this table.
How
They
big
sat on
Poland
this
once
table.
was.
Me, the foreign minister,
So that's
the
kinda one of
Russian
those,
defense
like,
minister
alright,
on
if you're
that
going by
side.
some old,
They said to me,
fucking
Yes,
Aquatine
we have
Hunger
thought
Force
about it.
thousands of
We
years
agree.
ago from the chicken from
10,000
the
years
future's
ago.
past or whatever the fuck that thing was.
The
right?
Ghost of Futures Past, the guy's great.
Yeah. If you try going by that, like, okay, so should Poland then invade Russia because that was originally Polish land? And well, wait a second. Depends on how far you go back. Okay, how far back are you going? Where is your line? You know, you're gonna pick whatever line you want that suits your needs.
I started losing track when he was like the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. I'm like, oh Jesus fucking Christ, bro.
So the only Grand Duchy I care about comes from a little cellophane wrapper from the fucking corner store.
It was Prince Rus and his son. Oh God.
I can't believe you're still watching this.
It's
Do you want to do something or not? Yeah, we have enough wood officially. Alright, I'm gonna craft stuff.
Craft stuff, bro.
I feel like this is a trap.
just don't
Craft
accidentally.
everything you need.
Yeah. What I need is
Use all the tin.
what I need is a balcony. So that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, Mike's over here like, yeah, dude, all this progression, I gotta fabricate all this stuff, and I'm like, listen, I ran across the map to get pins so I,
I
can
said,
make more
"Thank God,
chandeliers."
great." But with
I fought
some
wraiths for their
exceptions.
So
chains.
twice you've described U.S. presidents making decisions
Yeah, we're gonna put them to use. I'm not
and then
just gonna
being undercut
put 'em in a bin.
by their
You gotta
agency heads.
accessorize.
So it sounds like you're describing a system that's not run by the people who are elected in your talent.
Bro, proper accessories is important.
That's right, that's right. In the end, they just told us to get lost. I'm not going to tell you the details because I think it's incorrect. After all, it was confidential conversation. But our proposal was declined.
So two
That's
of
a
my
fact.
gym friends.
It was right then when I
married couple,
said,
I got a daughter
"Look,
that's
but
like
then we will be forced to take..."
17, dating some kid that I think like just started college, right?
Go on.
And we were talking about like gym etiquette and all that kind of stuff today, and eventually we got onto like where to retire, right? Just all over the place. And both of them are probably like early 40s. He's retired military. I think she is too. And like, I mean, they're retired at 42 or something. Just living the life. They go to the gym at like noon. The dude, I can't think of his name now to save my life. The chick's name's Esperanza. And the dude, he just like, You know, wakes up, roasts a bowl, kind of hangs out, goes to the gym. He's about my build, so he's not like lazy. He's fucking swole. And anyway, I guess she's from like the Philippines originally. So she was like, you know, trying to tell me that, like if I ever
Take countermeasures.
feel the need
We
to
will
retire
Lady boy. That's you.
I know, I was about to.
Look. Do you want to go fight some guys or what?
Yeah, we can go clear more iron. And did you make anything for yourself?
No, I'll do it last. I was busy with my little project.
I just did mine, so I'm happy to go kill stuff when you axe, pole arm, whatever the shit this is.
not making anything, but I'm moving to Mango. I'll do mine last.
How are we on core wood? Out?
You're not farming it, so you'll probably think we have only 2 stacks.
I need some just for. I'm gonna do
I need
this.
some.
Yeah, no, the primary wood chest.
I just want to do a little experiment. I might not even use it.
I think I just need like 2 or 4. Did you leave any?
No, but I'm gonna bring them right back. I just want to see something about if the structure works.
Did I not bring bronze? Oh, maybe. Oh, never mind.
Hold.
Create such strike systems that will certainly overcome missile defense systems. The answer was, we're not doing this against you, and you do what you want. Assuming that it is not against us, not against the United States. I said, okay. Very well. That's the way it went. And we created hypersonic systems with intercontinental range, and we continue to develop them. We are now ahead of everyone, the United States and the other countries, in terms of the development of hypersonic strike systems, and we are improving them every day. But it wasn't us. We proposed to go the other way, and we were pushed back. Now, about NATO's expansion to the east. Well, we were promised no NATO to the east, not an inch to the east, as we were told. And then what? They said, well, it's not enshrined on paper, so we'll expand. So there were 5 waves of expansion, the Baltic states, the whole of Eastern Europe, and so on. And now I come to the main thing. They have come to the Ukraine, ultimately. In 2008, at the summit in Bucharest, they declared that the doors for Ukraine and Georgia to join NATO were open. Now about how decisions are made there. Germany, France seem to be against it, as well as some other European countries. But then, as it turned out later, President Bush, and he's such a tough guy, a tough politician, as I was told later, he exerted pressure on us and we had to agree. It's ridiculous, it's like kindergarten. Where are the guarantees? What kindergarten is this? What kind of people are these? Who are they? You see, they were pressed, they agreed. And then they say, Ukraine won't be in the NATO, you know? I say, I don't know. I know you agreed in 2008. Why won't you agree in the future? Well, they pressed us then. I say, why won't they press you tomorrow? And you'll agree again. Well, it's nonsensical. Who's there to talk to? I just don't understand. We're ready to talk. But with whom? Where are the guarantees? None. So they started to develop the territory of Ukraine. Whatever is there, I have told you the background, how this territory developed, what kind of relations there were with Russia. Every second or third person there has always had some ties with Russia. And during the elections in already independent, sovereign Ukraine, which gained its independence as a result of the Declaration of Independence. And by the way, it says that Ukraine is a neutral state, and in 2008, suddenly the doors or gates to NATO were open to it. Oh, come on. This is not how we agreed. Now, all the presidents that have come to power in Ukraine, they relied on electorate with a good attitude to Russia in one way or the other. This is the southeast of Ukraine. This is a large number of people.
перебить этот электорат.
and it was very difficult to dissuade this electorate, which had a positive attitude towards Russia.
К власти пришел
Viktor Yanukovych came to power, and how?
первый раз он победил.
The first time he won after President Kuchma, they organized a third round, which is not provided for in the constitution of Ukraine.
Госпереворот.
This is a coup d'etat.
Себе.
Just imagine, someone in the United States wouldn't like the outcome.
In 2014.
Нет.
Before that.
Нет, нет.
No, this was before that. After President Kuchma, Viktor Yanukovych won the elections. However, his opponents did not recognize that victory. The US supported the opposition, and the third round was scheduled.
США поддержали.
What is this? This is a
Назначили
coup.
третий тур.
The US supported it, and the winner of the third round came to power.
Государственный переворот.
Imagine if in the US something was not to someone's liking, and the third round of election, which the US Constitution does not provide for, was organized.
Организовали переворот.
Nonetheless, it was done in Ukraine.
Не предусмотрено.
Okay, Viktor Yushchenko, who was considered a pro-Western politician, came to power.
Который считался прозападным.
Fine, we have built relations with him as well. He came to Moscow with visits. We visited Kiev. I visited too.
Встречались не по.
We met in an informal setting. If he's pro-Western, so be it. It's fine. Let people do their job.
Пускай
The
ситуация.
situation should have developed inside independent Ukraine itself. As a result of Kuchma's leadership, things got worse and Viktor Yanukovych came to power after all.
Ситуация ухудшилась.
Maybe he wasn't the best president and politician, I don't know. I don't want to give assessments. However, the issue of the association with the EU came up.
Но встал вопрос об ассоциации с Евросоюзом.
We have always been lenient to this, suit yourself. But when we read through the Treaty of Association, it turned out to be a problem for us, since we had a free trade zone and open customs borders with Ukraine, which under this association had to open its borders for Europe, which would have led to flooding of our
Свои
market.
границы перед Европой. И потоком все на наши рынки.
We said, no, this is not going to work. We shall close our borders with Ukraine then. The customs borders, that is.
Насчет счета.
Yanukovych started to calculate how much Ukraine was going to gain, how much to lose, and said to his European partners, I need more time to think before signing. The moment he said that, the opposition began to take destructive steps which were supported by the West. It all came down to Maidan and a coup in Ukraine.
So he did more trade with Russia than with the EU. Ukraine did.
Ну, конечно. Ну, конечно, конечно.
Of course, it's not even the matter of trade volume, although for the most part it is. It is the matter of cooperation ties, which the entire Ukrainian economy was based on. The cooperation ties between the enterprises were very close since the times of the Soviet Union. One enterprise there used to produce components to be assembled both in Russia and Ukraine and vice versa. They used to be very close ties.
Нам из Соединенных
A
Штатов
coup d'etat was committed, although I shall not delve into details now, as I find doing it inappropriate, the US told us. Calm Yanukovych down, and we will calm the opposition. Let the situation unfold in the scenario of a political settlement. We said, all right, agreed, let's do it this way. As the Americans requested, Yanukovych did use neither the armed forces nor the police, yet the armed opposition committed a coup in Kiev.
провела госпиталь.
What is that supposed to mean?
Как это понимать?
Who do you think you are?
Вы кто такие?
I wanted to ask the then US leadership.
With the backing of whom?
При поддержке ЦРУ, конечно.
With the backing of CIA, of course. The organization you wanted to join back in the day, as I understand.
Хотя это серьезно.
We should thank God they didn't let you in. Although, it is a serious organization. I understand. My former vis-a-vis in the sense that I served in the first main directorate, Soviet Union's intelligence service. They have always been our opponents. A job is a job.
Но технически они все сделали правильно.
Technically, they did everything right. They achieved their goal of changing the government. However, from political standpoint, it was a colossal mistake. Surely it was political leadership's miscalculation. They should have seen what it would evolve into.
Итак,
So, in 2008, the doors of NATO were opened for Ukraine. In 2014, there was a coup. They started persecuting those who did not accept the coup, and it was indeed a coup. They created a threat to Crimea, which we had to take under our protection. They launched a war in Donbass in 2014 with the use of aircraft and artillery against civilians. This is when it all started. There is a video of aircraft attacking Donetsk from above. They launched a large-scale military operation, then another one. When they failed, they started to prepare the next one. All this against the background of military development of this territory and opening of NATO's doors. How could we not express concern over what was happening? From our side, this would have been a culpable negligence. That's what it would have been. It's just that the US political leadership pushed us to the line we could not cross, because doing so could have ruined Russia itself. Besides, we could not leave our brothers in faith, in fact, a part of Russian people, in the face of this war machine.
But that was 8 years before the current conflict started. So what was the trigger for you? What was the moment where you decided you had to do this?
Спровоцировал конфликт изначально.
Initially, it was the coup in Ukraine that provoked.
If you're finally ready to take a trip without the kids, why stay at a hotel with more kids?
The conflict. By the way, back then the representatives of 3 European countries, Germany, Poland and France, arrived. They were the guarantors of the signed agreement between the government of Yanukovych and the opposition. They signed it as guarantors. Despite that, the opposition committed a coup and all these countries pretended that they didn't remember that they were guarantors of the peaceful settlement. They just threw it in the stove right away, and nobody recalls that. I don't know if the US know anything about the agreement between the opposition and the authorities, and its 3 guarantors who, instead of bringing this whole situation back in the political field, supported the coup. Although it was meaningless, believe me. Because President Yanukovych agreed to all conditions, he was ready to
Did you
hold...
make your shit yet?
I'm doing it right now. I'm done. And my inventory is empty. So let's see. Let me see what they want.
Yeah, just make whatever you want.
Okay, let's see. Holy shit. 20 iron for the male. 20 for the greaves. Alright, let's start with that. How much do we have? A good bit. Wow.
A lot.
Alright, let me very carefully get the... Oh, Jesus, too heavy. What do I need? I need 4 deer hide. Alright. Iron scale, male, craft. Iron greaves. I don't have enough for the helmet? Oh my god.
You need six leather total.
What are you using for a back, Ted? Still the troll leather?
Troll, yeah.
Hard to kill the other abomination because they'd run away.
Some bone. I know we have a fuck ton. Where is it?
It's in the leather. In the phone.
An early election which he had no chance of winning, frankly speaking. Everyone knew that. Then why the coup? Why the victims? Why threatening Crimea? Why launching an operation in Donbass? This I do not understand. That is exactly what the miscalculation is. CIA did its job to complete the coup. I think one of the deputy secretaries of state said that it cost a large sum of money, almost 5 billion. But the political mistake was colossal. Why would they have to do that? All this could have been done legally, without victims, without military action, without losing Crimea. We would have never considered to even lift a finger if it hadn't been for the bloody developments on Maidan. Because we agreed with the fact that after...
Hey, Legendary, what's going on? What'd you say, Ted?
I said, are you missing something to make?
No. I upgraded my cape another time. The blue troll. All right, so I got my hat, pants, my shirt, my bag, weight belt. Let me put this the iron back up. We're not upgrading anything, all right?
I am not.
Oh, I still need to make my shield. Oh, please tell me we have fine wood. I know we have a bunch of trees outside.
We do.
Yeah, it's in wood.
Iron tower shield. Go. Change the style. Go with yellow and blue. I really hope this thing can block. Really tired of getting my shit smashed in.
The iron gear helped a lot.
Alright, I guess I'm gonna make some stuff if you made everything.
I don't know what else I'm missing. The battle axe is two-handed. Woo! I feel like that would swing so slow.
Yeah.
I mean, do we have huntsman bows?
No, I do not.
Seems like
I'm
it-
gonna make a sword.
I did not make a bow.
I mean, if we have enough, I could use an iron sword. Well, I mean, I want to be careful with our usage of materials.
What do you main weapon, Mando?
Bronze sword. Yeah, it's a slash of 35, and the iron has a slash of 55. Wow.
Yeah, my sword slashes 47 with it upgraded. So I'm gonna make a sword. 2 wood, 3 scraps. And my armor is like equivalent to the level 1 armor, so I'm not even gonna make it until we're all like upgrading, making stuff. So for each of us to make a bow, it would take 60. Oh, we got plenty. That still leaves us all that. I think we should do it.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a bow.
Just make 2 and just throw it next to you. I'll be right here. Careful with the clicks.
Alright.
In the meantime, I'll be right back.
Okay, fine. If they consider themselves a separate people, they have the right to do so, but not on the basis of Nazism, the Nazi ideology.
Would you be satisfied with the territory that you have now?
Нет, сейчас закончим. Вы же задали вопрос по неонацизму и денацификации.
I will finish answering the question. You just asked a question about neo-Nazism and denazification. Look, the president of Ukraine visited Canada. The story is well known, but being silenced in the Western countries. The Canadian Parliament introduced a man who, as the Speaker of the Parliament said,
We to escort
fought
you to your
against the
corpse.
Russians during the World War II.
I think I can make it.
Well, who fought against the Russians during the World War II? Hitler and his accomplices. It turned out that this man served in the SS troops. He personally killed Russians, Poles, and Jews.
Slime, though.
The SS troops consisted of Ukrainian nationalists who did this dirty work. The president of Ukraine stood up with the entire Parliament of Canada and applauded this man. How can this be imagined? The president of Ukraine himself, by the way, is a Jew by nationality.
Really, my question is, what do you do about it? I mean, Hitler's been dead for 80 years. Nazi Germany no longer exists. And so, true.
Can't I
and
loot this?
So,
What the fuck?
I think what you're saying is you want to extinguish or at least control Ukrainian nationalism.
All right, boys. I'm out.
Good game.
See ya.
Alright, good.
Послушайте, ваш вопрос очень тонкий.
Listen to me.
There's two
Your
giant
question
slimes.
is very subtle, and I can tell you what I think. Do not take offense.
I'm gonna drink my potion. This is
Yeah, I
dangerous.
just tossed you one.
Он очень противный.
This question appears to be subtle. It is quite pesky. You say Hitler has been dead for so many years.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna die.
But his example lives on.
Come on,
People
come on,
who
come on, come
exterminated
on.
Jews,
Oh, I lived.
Russians, and Poles are alive. And the president, the current president of today's Ukraine, applauds him in the Canadian Parliament, gives a standing ovation. Can we say that we have completely uprooted this ideology if what we see is happening today? That is what denazification is in our understanding. We have to get rid of those people who maintain this concept and support this practice and try to preserve it. That is what denazification is. That is what we mean.
Right. My question was a little more specific. It was, of course, not a defense of Nazism or otherwise. It was a practical question. You don't control the entire country. You don't control Kiev. You don't seem like you want to. So how do you eliminate a culture or an ideology or feelings or view of history in a country that you don't control? What do you do about that?
А вы знаете, как вам не покажется странно,
It is,
в ходе переговоров в Стамбуле
You know,
10.
as strange as it may seem to you, during the negotiations at Istanbul, we did agree that we have it all in writing. Neo-Nazism would not be cultivated in Ukraine, including that it would be prohibited at the legislative level. Mr. Carson, we agreed on that. This, it turns out, can be done during the negotiation process.
Yeah, I've already
And there's
cleared it.
nothing humiliating for Ukraine as a modern civilized state. Is any state allowed to promote Nazism?
I cleared that other way.
It is not, is it?
Oh,
That is it.
There's just one place left.
will there be talks, and why haven't there been talks about resolving the conflict? Talks.
They have been. They reached a very high stage of coordination of positions in a complex process, but still they were almost finalized. But after we withdrew our troops from Kiev, as I have already said, the other side threw away all these agreements and obeyed the instructions of Western countries, European countries, and the United States to fight Russia to the bitter end. Moreover, the president of Ukraine has legislated a ban on negotiating with Russia. He signed a decree forbidding everyone to negotiate with Russia. But how are we going to negotiate if he forbade himself and everyone to do this. We know that he is putting forward some ideas about this settlement, but in order to agree on something, we need to have a dialogue. Is that not right?
Well, but you wouldn't be speaking to the Ukrainian president, you'd be speaking to the American president. When was the last time you spoke to Joe Biden?
I cannot remember when I talked to him. I do not remember. We can look it up.
You don't remember?
No. Why? Do I have to remember everything? I have my own things to do. We have domestic political affairs.
Well, he's funding the war that you're
Is that it?
fighting, so I would think that would be memorable.
Well, yes, he funds, but I talked to him before the special military operation, of course. And I said to him then, by the way, I will not go into details, I never do, but I said to him then, I believe that you are making a huge mistake of historic proportions by supporting everything that is happening there, in Ukraine, by pushing Russia away. I told him repeatedly, by the way. I think that would be correct if I stop here.
What did he say?
Ask him, please. It is easier for you. You are a citizen of the United States. Go and ask him. It is not appropriate for me to comment on our conversation.
But you haven't spoken to him since before February of 2022.
No, we haven't spoken. Certain contacts are being maintained, though. Speaking of which, do you remember what I told you about my proposal to work together on a missile defense system?
Yes.
You can ask all of them. All of them are safe and sound, thank God. The former president, Condoleezza, is safe and sound, and I think Mr. Gates and the current director of the intelligence agency, Mr. Burns, the then ambassador to Russia, in my opinion, are very successful ambassador. They were all witnesses to these conversations. Ask them. Same here. If you are interested in what Mr. President Biden responded to me, ask him. At any rate, I talked to him about it.
I'm definitely interested, but from the outside, it seems like this could devolve or evolve into something that brings the entire world into conflict and could initiate a nuclear launch. And so why don't you just call Biden and say, let's work this out?
What's there to work out? It's very simple. I repeat. We have contacts through various agencies. I will tell you what we are saying on this matter and what we are conveying to the US leadership. If you really want to stop fighting, you need to stop supplying weapons. It will be over within a few weeks. That's it. And then we can agree on some terms. Before you do that, stop. What's easier? Why would I call him? What should I talk to him about? Or beg him for what?
And what messages did you get back?
Until I get back. Middle's
You're
clear,
going
it's
to
been right.
deliver such and such weapons to Ukraine. Oh, I'm afraid, please don't. What is there to talk about?
Do you think NATO is worried about this becoming a global war or a nuclear
Yeah, I
conflict?
wasn't sure if I cleared all of it though. There's some stuff on the right I haven't finished.
At least that's what they're talking about. And they're trying to intimidate their own population with an imaginary Russian threat. This is an obvious fact. And thinking people, not Philistines, but thinking people, analysts, those who are engaged in geopolitics, the smart people understand perfectly well that this is a fake. They're trying to fuel the Russian threat.
The threat I think you're referring to is a Russian invasion of Poland, Latvia, expansionist behavior. Can you imagine a scenario where you sent Russian troops to Poland?
Only in one case, if Poland attacks Russia. Why? Because we have no interest in Poland, Latvia, or anywhere else. Why would we do that? We simply don't have any interest. It's just threat mongering.
Well, the argument, I know you know this, is that, well, he invaded Ukraine.
I gotta run back.
He has territorial aims across the continent, and you're saying unequivocally you don't.
это абсолютно исключено.
It is absolutely out of the question. You just don't have to be any kind of analyst. It goes against common sense to get involved in some kind of a global war.
Глобальная война
Still closed.
поставит на грань.
And a global war will bring
Did you
all
set-
humanity to the brink of
No.
destruction.
They're
It's
one time
obvious.
only.
Okay.
Есть, конечно, средства.
There are certainly means of deterrence. They have been scaring everyone with us all along. Tomorrow Russia will
looks
use
like there's
tactical
more
nuclear
swamp,
weapons. Tomorrow Russia will use
west,
that.
I guess.
No, the day after tomorrow. So what?
Across
Выйдите
a river, though.
налогоплательщиков
In order to
США.
extort additional money from US taxpayers and European taxpayers in the confrontation with Russia in the Ukrainian theater of war. The goal is to weaken Russia as much as possible.
One of our senior United States senators from the state of New York, Chuck Schumer, said yesterday, I believe, that we have to continue to fund the Ukraine effort, or U.S. soldiers, citizens could wind up fighting there. How do you assess that?
This is a provocation, and a cheap provocation at that. I do not understand why American soldiers should fight in Ukraine. There are mercenaries from the United States there. The bigger number of mercenaries comes from Poland, with mercenaries from the United States in second place, and mercenaries from Georgia in third place. Well, if somebody has the desire to send regular troops, that would certainly bring humanity to the brink of very serious global conflict. This is obvious. Do the United States need this? What for?
Oh man, I am full of iron.
Thousands of miles away from your national territory.
I'm full.
Sorry.
Head on back.
Don't you have anything better to do? You have issues on the border, issues with migration, issues with the national debt. More than $32 trillion. You have nothing better to do, so you should fight in Ukraine? Wouldn't it be better to negotiate with Russia? Make an agreement? Already understanding the situation that is developing today, realizing that Russia will fight for its interests to the end? And realizing this, actually return to common sense, start respecting our country and its interests, and look for certain solutions. It seems to me that this is much smarter and more rational.
Who blew up Nord Stream?
You for sure.
I was busy that day. Nate, do you I did not blow up Nord Stream. Thank you, though.
У вас лично, не специально, у вас лично.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi.
Shit. Hurting.
Do you have evidence that NATO or CIA did it?
You know, I won't get into details, but people always say in such cases, look for someone who is interested. But in this case, we should not only look for someone who is interested, but also for someone who has capabilities. Because there may be many people interested, but not all of them are capable of sinking to the bottom of the Baltic Sea and carrying out this explosion. These two components should be connected. Who is interested and who is capable of doing it?
But I'm confused. I mean, that's the biggest act of industrial terrorism ever, and it's the largest emission of CO2 in history. Okay, so if you had evidence, and presumably given your security services or intel services you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States, because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media. The ultimate beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that? So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly. It's true.
Yes, but here's a question you may be able to answer. You worked in Germany, famously. The Germans clearly know that their NATO partner did this, and it damaged their economy greatly. It may never recover. Why are they being silent about it? That's very confusing to me. Why wouldn't the Germans say something about it?
This also confuses me. But today's German leadership is guided by the interests of the collective West rather
Did we
than
go
its
swimming down
national
here? There's more.
interests. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain the logic of their action or inaction. After all, it is not only about Nord Stream 1, which was blown up, and the Nord Stream 2 was damaged. But one pipe is safe and sound, and gas can be supplied to Europe. If Germany does not open it, we're ready, please. There's another route through Poland called Yamala Europe, which also allows for large flow. Poland has closed it, but Poland pecks from the German hand. It receives money from the pan-European funds, and Germany is the main donor to these pan-European funds. Germany feeds Poland to a certain extent, and they close their route to Germany. Why? I don't understand. Ukraine, to which the Germans supply weapons and give money. Germany is the second sponsor of the United States in terms of financial aid to Ukraine. There are two gas routes through Ukraine. They simply closed one route to the Ukrainians. Open the second route and please get gas from Russia. They do not open it. Why don't the Germans say, look guys, we give you money and weapons. Open up the valve, please. Let the gas from Russia pass through for us. We're buying liquefied gas at exorbitant prices in Europe, which brings the level of our competitiveness and economy in general down to zero. So you want us to give you money? Let us have the decent existence. Make money for our economy, because this is where the money we give you comes from.
Oh, hold on. What's up? Trying to make as much room as possible. Yeah, I'm at 444 out of 450. There's still 8 iron in this chest.
They refuse to do so. Why? Ask them. That is what is like in their heads. Those are highly incompetent people.
Well, maybe the world is breaking into two hemispheres.
Here, we're gonna have to mule
one
some
with
of it
cheap
out.
energy, the other without. And I want to ask you that. If we're
come
now a
back.
multipolar world, obviously we are. Can you describe the blocks of alliances? Who is in each side, do you think?
I didn't realize there was so much more in there.
Listen, you have said that the world is breaking into two hemispheres. The human brain is divided into two hemispheres. One is responsible for one type of activities, the other one is more about creativity and so on. But it is still one and the same head. The world should be a single whole. Security should be shared rather than meant for the golden billion. That is the only scenario where the world could be stable, sustainable, and predictable. Until then, while the head is split in two parts, it is an illness, a serious adverse condition. It is a period of severe disease that the world is going through now. But I think that, thanks to honest journalism, this work is akin to work of the doctors, This could somehow be
Other
remedied.
chefs beyond
Well,
that
let's just
in the next
give one
scenario.
example: the U.S. dollar, which has kind of united the world in a lot of ways. Maybe not
Jeez,
to
and
your
there's
advantage,
still
but
freaking
certainly ours. Is that
bunch
going
of
away
foreign
as
line.
the reserve currency
Yeah, I'm
has
just gonna
become
start
universally accepted
stacking this
currency?
chest.
How have sanctions, do you think, changed the dollar's place in the world?
Знаете, это одна из грубейших
You know, to use the dollar as a tool of foreign policy struggle is one of the biggest strategic mistakes made by the US political leadership.
это основа основ могущества США.
The dollar is the cornerstone of the United States power. I think everyone understands very well that no matter how many dollars are printed, they are quickly dispersed all over the world. Inflation in the United States is minimal. It's about 3 or 3.4%, which is, I think, totally acceptable for the US. But they won't stop printing. What does the debt of $33 trillion tell us about? It is about the emission.
Как только политическое руководство приняло решение использовать доллар в качестве инструмента политической
Nevertheless, it is the main weapon used by the United States to preserve its power across the world. As soon as the political leadership decided to use the US dollar as a tool of political struggle, a blow was dealt to this American power. I would not like to use any strong language, but it is a stupid thing to do and a grave mistake. Look at what is going on in the world. Even the United States allies are now downsizing their dollar reserves. Seeing this, everyone starts looking for ways to protect themselves. But the fact that the United States applies restrictive measures to certain countries, such as placing restrictions on transactions, freezing assets, etc., causes great concern and sends a signal to the whole world. What did we have here? Until 2022, about 80% of Russian foreign trade transactions were made in US dollars and euros.
Right back.
US dollars accounted for approximately 50% of our transactions with third countries, while currently it is down to 13%. It wasn't us who banned the use of the US dollar.
приняли решение ограничить
We gotta start packing it up soon.
We had no such intention.
Alright, there's still more in this dungeon. Like 5 minutes, Nando?
Yeah. I just repaired. I put all the iron in the swamp house.
Yeah,
And there
we'll
was-
flip it over and then you can melt it.
It was decision of the United States to
Tomorrow.
restrict our transactions in US
Just a
dollars.
lot.